Okay, so this is episode 3 of the Creating an MVC Project Soup to Nuts series, and we will be creating stored procedures for the database entities that we created in the previous video. And as always, a reminder, these videos are targeted at junior developers and or college students looking for a starting off point, and I am assuming that the viewer has a firm understanding of the C# language and object-oriented design principles. So before we get started on the stored procedures, I need to fix something here from the previous video position. I forgot to put a name here, so I just wanted to include that in this video so there wasn't any unnecessary confusion. So I'll add that name and then I'll hit update, and that will add that to my database, and we should have a name here now. Yep. Okay, so in the previous video we used Visual Studio to do the database creation here, but just for the sake of variety and the fact that I prefer to work in there this way, I'm going to go ahead and use SQL Server Management Studio to create the stored procedures. So I'll just start that off here, and I'll log into the same database we were using, and you can see the employee database is here from when we created it previously. And what we're going to do is we're just going to create some basic stored procedures for CRUD operations. Stuff that I'm not even sure if we're going to use it, but I'm pretty sure we will, and you typically do. You need some way to get information in and out of these tables, right? So we'll need that. So one of the first things we'll do here is create the CRUD operations for, actually it's probably better that we start with our foreign key table. So we'll start with our foreign key tables, and I'm just going to click New Query here, and make sure I'm pointed at the correct database, and then I'm just going to start hacking away. So I'm just going to kind of sort of talk out loud while I'm doing this. This is all really basic stuff. I typically do create proc and then use the schema name, and then I always prefix my my stored procedures with USP for user stored procedure, and we'll call this one employee insert. Generally what I do with my procedures is for creating employees, I'll try to do sort of an idempotent form of insert, what do they call it, upsert. So basically what you normally do is you check to see if this person exists. If they do, then update them. If they don't exist, then create them. I'm not going to be demonstrating that here because I think that's a little more towards intermediate, so I'm going to do individual procedures for each one of these operations here. So we're going to create the procedure DBO USP employee insert. This procedure is going to take a new user, and sorry, we're not doing employees insert. We are doing position. We're going to do position first. Position insert. Okay. Now, I'm also assuming that most people watching this video have experience in SQL Server, so I'm not going to spend too much time explaining what I'm doing. But we're going to create one of our parameters here. For position, the only real parameter that we have is name. So I'm going to call this name, and I'm going to make sure that it is an n varchar 50. And I believe that's what we set it to over here, right? Oh, no, n char 10. So we'll fix that, n varchar 50. Update that database there. Okay. And make sure that these two are in alignment. So basically all we're doing is an insert. So we're gonna say insert into insert into position, and then we're gonna tell it which fields we're inserting, which is just name. I'm doing some unnecessary formatting here just for consistency's sake. And then the values that we're gonna insert, which is just name. Oops. And we're missing a keyword here, as. Okay. Forgive me, I'm being somewhat obsessive here. Anyway, there's not much to insert, so this formatting doesn't make much sense. But anyway, so we're creating a procedure that is going to take a name a name argument here, and it's going to insert it into position in the name column, and we're going to use that value. That's it. That's pretty much it. So I'll run that. Command completed successfully. Now if we go into programmability, store procedures, we should see that procedure there. Cool. So now we need a one to retrieve it. So we're going to say position all, right? Again, normally when I write my procedures, I do these get with an optional parameter, but I'm going to do these separately just for the sake of consistency. Create proc USB position. We'll say select all. Right, and we need some parameters. So select all is going to be no parameters, right? So we'll say as, and we'll say select. Now some people do select all like this from position, like so. Don't do that. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and explicitly specify the columns that we're going to select. In this case, there's only one to select, so we're going to select name. So this procedure, when it's run, is going to select everything in this table, right? So we'll run that, completed successfully, and this should show up in here now. We got select all. Now we'll do select by ID. Create a new procedure here. This one's going to need an argument, and we'll say position ID, and that's going to be an int. And then we're going to select name from position, but now we're going to have this guy where position ID equals position ID. So now this will take in the ID, and it'll only return the one that matches. Right? Run that, completed successfully. So those are two selects. Okay. Now we didn't do any ended flags over here, so we're not going to be deleting any of the positions. So we'll leave that alone. So we have an insert. Refresh that. We have an insert. We have a select all. We have a select by ID. Right. So now we need an update. So we'll get rid of this stuff. Position update. Now this is, it needs to know which one we're updating, so we're going to say position ID, right? That's going to be an int. And what are we updating? There's only one field. So we're going to say name, right? And that's going to be an nvarchar 50. And I like to do these. We need a comma there. And as, and what we're going to do is we're going to update position, and we're going to set name equals name, where position ID equals position ID. There you have it. So we'll run that. So now we have our update. Now we need to delete. Now we promised we wouldn't delete anything, so yeah, we're not going to delete anything at all. So we won't do a delete proc. But there's your position stuff. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the same exact thing with department. And I'm not going to talk as much. I'm just going to knock these out. Values, just name, that should be everything. Okay, now we want to do a select all, which is going to be no parameters. we'll say select name from department, and that's all of them. Now we'll do select by ID. And when I run these, I'm just hitting F5. You could also hit execute over here. So this is select by ID, so select name from department where department ID equals, we need to do that. Okay, so one of the things I also forgot to do is I generally want to make sure that the department ID is included in these queries, right? We want to kind of keep them consistent, so we'll say department ID. We'll select both of those fields. We'll run that. Okay, so make sure that these are updated with that. So we do select. When we do the select all, I'm going to modify, and I'm also going to do the department ID. Include that in the query. That should be an alter. Okay. Get rid of that. Select by ID we did. Insert yes. Now position, we want to make sure we fix these. Position ID. Alter that. That's good. That was for the select all. Select by ID. Position. Holy cow. Position ID. Okay, the girlfriend's getting drunk. Good to know. Okay, so we got that. I'll go ahead and do this. Position update is no return, so we won't return anything on that. So we'll close this out. Okay, so now departments we have insert, select all, and select by ID. Now we need an update, right? So department update, and we got the ID, and we're gonna need the only piece of information that we can update. And varchar 50. Okay, and this will be update department set name equals name where department ID is equal to the one that was given to us. There you go. Create that. Refresh. Goody. Okay, so now we can go and do the employee. Now this is going to be a little bit more complicated because remember when we made the employee tables, we did form constraints and we made them not nullable. So when we create the employee, we need to make sure that we also already know what those IDs are going to be. So here we will create proc dbd usp employee come on fingers insert. We're going to need to know the first name, varchar 50, right? We're going to need to know the last name, which is varchar 100, and then what else did we need? Hire date. That was also a required parameter, right? So a hire date, which is going to be date time, and then end date is null, right? Going in, and now we need the position IDs. So we see position ID, int, and department ID is also an int, right? So now we're going to insert into employee, and select the values, and order is going to be first name, last name, hire date, position ID, and department ID, right? And then the values are going to be, just thinking about something else here. But anyway, okay, so first name, last name, hire date. Pretty repetitive here, huh? Position ID, department ID. And there is your insert. Okay, so now what we could do, just in case somebody wanted to get the resulting ID out, we can say employee ID, and we can call this an int output, right? Then what we'll do is the last step, we'll say select employee ID equals, oh shoot, what is it? It is scope identity. That guy. Which I think is method. There you go. So now what will happen is you'll insert it, and then whatever it comes up with as the new ID, it will do this, so that whatever called this procedure will be able to see that ahead of time without having to query the whole database and look for it again. So we'll run that, created successfully. Cool. So that's our insert. Now we will go directly to the update, because this can get kind of complicated. Okay, so for the update, what we're going to do is we're going to take one of a number of different approaches you can do here. You can do coalescing, merging, and all of that, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a complete replace. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to assume that whoever is calling this procedure is going to give us a complete object with all the information in the state that they want it to be saved in. And the reason that we're going to do that is if all these parameters are required currently. If they were to send us in some stuff, only the stuff that they wanted to change, and we would actually have to go through basically parameter by parameter and say, okay, if this is null, or if they gave us something null, then don't do an update. If they gave us something that's not null, then replace it with what they gave us, if that makes any sense. Now, there's plenty of cool ways to do that, but we're not going to mess with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take an employee update, which is basically the same information, except now they need to know what the employee ID is, right? So they know which one that they're editing. So that won't be an output anymore. We'll take that away. So instead of an insert, we're going to be doing a set, and we won't need any of this anymore. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a straight up update of the employee table, and we are going to set each field. So we are going to say first name equals first name, last name equals last name, hire date equals hire date, and we'll say position ID equals position ID, so we can let them change their position, and department ID equals department ID. So what we're going to do for this end date is we're not going to mess with that in the update script. We're going to go ahead and create an actual delete script that will set this flag for us. Okay, and then we need to constrain it, so we need to say where employee ID is equal to the employee ID that they gave us. Okay, so now what's going to happen is no matter what they give us, we are going to replace what's in the database with what they give us. None of these one-off things. Okay, so run that. There you go. Go ahead and refresh this. And what do we have now? So employee, we insert and update. So now we need the gets, right? So employee select all, which is no parameters, as select, and we're not doing a star, right? Because that's lame. So we're going to say first name, first name, last name, hire date, end date, position ID, department ID, right? And we're going to select that from employee. That's the select all. Okay, run that, save it, looks good. Now we're going to go select by ID, all the same stuff, except now we're going to say where employee ID equals probably declare that, huh? So we say employee ID, which is an int, and now we can say employee ID, boom. That should give us everything except for the ID. So we need to make sure that we give them back the employee ID for consistency's sake. Good. So that is our select by ID, right? And we probably forgot to put that. Let's see, refresh in the select all. Oops. Where are we? Select all, modify. Yes, I forgot that. Employee ID. There we go. Update that proc. Get out of the way. Okay, so we have insert, select all, select by ID, and we also have an update. Now we need a delete. Employee delete. Oops. We got some garbage here. Employee delete, right? And in order to delete it, we're going to need an employee ID, which is an int. And then we'll just get rid of all that. And then what we'll do is we'll do update employee, and we will set end date equals now, where employee ID equals employee ID, right? Uh-oh. What happened here? Now, I think I'm thinking Oracle or something. This should be get date. There you go. Function? Yeah. Here we go. So now when somebody calls the delete, they'll give us an ID. We'll look for the person that has that ID. We will set this, and then we will update that employee. Run it. Successfully. Good to go. Okay, so that gives us all of our CRUD. So now we're going to want to create one more deal here. And we'll say create view. And I prefix my views like this. And we'll say active employee. And we'll say select first. Oh, let's start there for now. From employee. Right, so now we have first name, last name. Oh, let's not forget that employee ID again. There's that guy. Oops. And then we have the hire date. And we have the end date. Well, can't do that because they won't be in this result. So, position ID, forgot the comma. And department ID. Okay, grabs all that stuff from employee where the end date is null, right? Because we said we're going to use that as a flag. Since only where this one is null, because we want active employees. That's why we're not actually selecting it over here, because it's going to be null all the time anyway, right? So create successfully. And what this view is going to do is so that I don't have to write it into my procedures after that, we can just query off the active view from this point forward. Okay, so all of our stored procedures now, we have everything that we need for all the CRUD operations for the 3 entities that we made. So in the next video, what we're going to go ahead and do is create data sources in the Visual Studio project that will consume these stored procedures. So today, all we did is CRUD. And I'll see you in the next video.